Is there anything better than the gear second pose? I mean, yo, the G2, I don't know it. I don't know, maybe y'all know it, but I don't know it, man. I don't know of a pose, of a stance, better than gear second, especially when it's followed by a dialogue as raw as this. Yo, and then the fact that scene was elevated even higher thanks to y'all's comments letting me know and reminding me that when Luffy goes into gear second, he pumps his legs. That's going straight to the heart. So it's like Luffy utilizing the gear second pose to restart his heartbeat for the drums of liberation to start kicking again. It's like, it makes sense. It makes sense. And what it makes me hope and believe is that this isn't the last time that we'll see the gear second pose being associated with gear fifth. Because the more gear second poses, the better. But on that same line of thought, I think my favorite thing about this week's chapter, besides the obvious, is the fact that we got to see so many callbacks to some of Luffy's most iconic techniques utilized here in Gear 5th this week. You know, seeing the way he utilized Fusen by completely turning Kaido's body into rubber, making him float up into the air, then utilizing the rocket to get himself out of his eyes, propel himself by holding onto his nostril, getting out of there, then using the Giganto form, which is obviously full body Gear 3rd, just now without the limitations that he previously had in his body. Now he can do that in his entire body. Then there's the Gear 2nd callback. Then there was the end of the chapter where now his fist is truly as strong as a pistol. I mean, he legit punched Kaido's face in. I mean, using full-blown rubbery tactics of like, and it made his whole face go, what? I was like, yo, no, this is fantastic. This is great. And even the parallels with being Sake, as I said in the chapter notes, just, I loved the callbacks this week, man, because it just goes to show that this series has always been like this. This series hasn't lost what's made it special. It continues to utilize everything that makes it special to this day. To this day! And I love that about this week's chapter, man. Not only did we have the exciting fighting sequences with Luffy vs. Kaido this week, not only did we have Goat with the coat going in with some of the most awesome moments, man. And some shocking moments, too. When I saw him initially get out of Gear 5th, I was like, don't even tell me this is about to be another L, man. And more so than it being another L, it was hurting me because I just wanted to see more from Gear 5th. Up until that point in the chapter, that was some of the most fun I've ever had reading this series. It was hilarious. It was just great being able to see what's going to happen next. I feel like what Gear 5th has brought to the table is, you know, normally I always associate like York New City, for example, or Water 7, those types of arcs with, oh my goodness, what is going to happen next? Like the page turners. What Gear 5th is, it's a page turner in a different way, to where you just can't wait to see just how insane Oda's going to go with this next. And that's what makes Gear 5th so much fun for me. Because when I see him in this form, not only am I like, do I love this form in terms of the way it's designed, to what it can do, what it embodies, but now from a page-to-page standpoint, I don't know what to expect. In this week's chapter, we had Luffy playing jump rope with Kaido while he's a giant. And then you had a situation where he was burned with the blast breath. Comes back, Flintstone runs in the air, Kaido jumps up 3 World Conquest Ragnaroku and sends him down. His face does the Ivanka. It was fantastic. Like, every single page was more shocking than the last. And it's in a different type of way. It just made it flow so well, and it just felt like so much fun, man. I don't know, dude. This week's chapter was really, really special because The thing is, post-transformation chapters are always a ton of fun because you get to see the new techniques. The thing that makes Gear 5 so much fun is that not only do you get to see new techniques, but you get to see Oda fully exploring his imagination and his creativity to like the highest degree. And the end of this week's chapter legit felt like not just Luffy saying that, but Oda saying that. When Luffy was like, yo, I feel like I'm having the time of my life right now. And that's been a very common theme throughout this battle. Luffy or Kaido stating, I'm having the time of my life, I'm having the time of my life, I'm having the time of my life. And I wonder how he's going to connect that thematically to the battle between Luffy and Kaido. Obviously, we know how Luffy feels, but what about Kaido? Kaido's obviously having a fun time as well. And he had some amazing lines of dialogue, like, you can't beat me, no one can beat me. I was like, yo, Kaido! But the Go with the Code was the star of the show this week, man. He had some amazing lines. I mean, yo. Dude, after the Gear 2nd pose coming in, do you think something like death can scare me after all this? That was the coldest line I've ever seen. Pulling out Pedro, Momo, Tama, Kinemon. I was like, nah, man. But the artwork this week was A1. When we get all of this stuff animated, please, Toei, give us all the sound effects. The plonks, the kabooms, all of them. All of them, man. We need all of the old cartoony sound effects, please. But then when he came in with the propeller, and then we got a confirmation from both Yamato and Kaido that this is a pure white form. So that means he's going to have the white hair, the white clothes. That's going to be very interesting seeing the way that's colored within the series itself. Because initially we're all going like, okay, it's a blonde type of state, but no, it's actually white. So it's gonna look very, very different. I look forward to seeing how it also connects to the smoke surrounding them as well, how all of that's gonna mix together when it comes to the colors. So exciting stuff there, but it was super dope seeing Kaido just attempting to understand what's going on here. We start off the chapter with him saying, the whole, is a paramecia, but something feels off. And then later on in the chapter, when he's like, so he's utilizing both ornament and with Conqueror's Haki, he's influencing everything around him with his ability, and he's fighting with so much freedom. Like, I've never seen anything like this. Like, he's trying to comprehend exactly what's going on here. And it's so cool because Kaido, even though he seems so unfazed, you see that it's starting to take a toll on his mental. Like, this guy's still not down? You brought me down to one knee. That should have been plenty enough. And the fact that he restarted his heartbeat, came back up, still had enough to talk some trash, still start going in again, and he's not done. So much so that we got to have a very similar ending. So I believe it's been chapter 1025, 1041. What was the other one? I think it was 1036. There's been like 3 different chapter endings that have Luffy hitting Kaido as he looks like he's falling down on his back. And so to see this week's chapter where the fist connects and Kaido actually falls on his back before Luffy states a line that he's been saying a lot in this fight, which is, I've been having the time of my life. That just goes to show that these attacks right now are doing a lot of damage. And also Kaido's been fighting an entire war to this point, so he's exhausted, you know what I mean? But the fact that he falls down on his back showcases that this is different now. We're reaching the end game of this fight. This is the final portions of this battle that are about to take place. And it makes it so much fun because what we got to see in this week's chapter was the heart and soul of One Piece. The goofy, comedic nature, the creative nature of the way the battles are done in the series, but also Luffy's abilities just completely embodied there. But we also got to see within all of that hilarious stuff some of the rawest content ever, with Kaido stating those amazing lines, and then Luffy in the Gear 2nd pose being like, you think death scares me at this point? And it was just so dope having that combination, which is what scares me. Because Oda's so good at balancing comedy and hype, emotional moments with funny moments, it really, really scares me. Because if this moment is peak comedy Luffy, when he gets out of this state, especially, I was already scared for him when he initially entered the Drums of Liberation. And he said his heart sounds funny. And he's in Gear 5th even after potentially dying. That by itself was a huge, stop sign, caution, things could go wrong here. But in this week's chapter, when he has to force his heart to once again restart in the Gear second pose, that to me is a huge red flag. This is bad. Like, in terms for, I mean, it's phenomenal for the story, but this is bad for Luffy at the end of all of this. Because after he defeats Kaido, the repercussions of Gear 5th could be catastrophic. I mean, I don't know how far Oda's gonna go with it, but, yo, it's just, he's a man of balance. You can't have too much comedy without having something really, really bad on the other end. So it's like, I'm scared. I'm scared of the repercussions of Gear 5th for Luffy at the end of all this. I mean, there is a big possibility that Law will have to use his immortality fruit on Luffy after this. He could die. He could legitimately die as a repercussion of utilizing his fruit in this way. In order to defeat Kaido, he may have to die himself. And it's crazy. And then even then, you know, whenever he finally wakes back up or regains consciousness, whatever it is, he's still not going to be able to move for a minute. I mean, of course, he's a mythical Zoan, so he's going to have that regeneration nature to it, but even then, in Gear 5th, my man's going to be out cold for a little while, and we go into that theory I've been talking about for the potential possibility of a time skip while Luffy's asleep, or us following the rest of the world while Luffy's asleep, whichever way Oda wants to go about it. But those repercussions are becoming clearer and clearer as the chapters pass. And that's the one thing that really, really scares me and gets me excited, because it goes to show that even in the midst of all of this, which has us all smiling, laughing, bringing us true joy in the way that the battle's taking place so far, we know that at the end of all this, it's going to be bad from a repercussion standpoint for our king, man. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what Oda does with that, because that's going to be nuts. But, man, at least Luffy's having the time of his life now, because the repercussions are about to be crazy. But talking a little bit about next week, I mean, Kaido backstory obviously could be imminent. We could switch to something else before coming back up here for the final time between these two, throwing hands, going in. And it's just been a lot of fun, right? Because in every single fight, in every single major fight, we've had these moments of comedy within them. You know, Luffy, whenever he left Gear 3 for the first time and was turned into a small child, that was that in the Lucci fight. When Katakuri was eating donuts within that fight, that was the heavily comedic portion in the middle of that. In the Doflamingo fight, whenever he was just bouncing around all over the place and Dofi was basically just laughing at him like, what in the flying flatter is this man doing? And then you look back at Arlong Park with like the sharp teeth, putting it on Crocodile with the spitting out water, and he was huge. Every major NL, every major fight has had like those moments and instances of comedy. And this is just that taken to like the 20th degree with Gear 5th. And it's so cool because in this week's chapter with stuff like the giant form and whatnot, you see like the epicness there, but it's balanced with when Kaido swung at him in his head and you saw that grotesque looking head, looks straight up like it's out of Cuphead. It just looks so cool, man. And in the way that we're able to balance that is really what's been making this fight super special. And Luffy vs. Kaido's has been so much fun because when you look back at the original Roof piece, how epic and amazing that was. Then Roof Piece Part 2 was so much fun, but then we get to Roof Piece Part 3 and it's like, yo, man, it's going down, dude, it's going down. Luffy's truly utilizing this ability to like the highest extent right now. I mean, to the beyond imagination. And like I said, that's why I'm so glad that Oda not only kept the Gomu Gomu no, obviously, because Luffy doesn't know what his fruit is, but even if he did, he wouldn't care. He would still say Gomu Gomu no. But utilizing old techniques in new ways further goes to show exactly just how insane this ability is. I mean, none of us would have ever thought that Fusen was capable of doing what it did this week, right? Rockets being able to escape out of his eyes, right? You know, that was a basic Gomu Gomu no pistol he did this week, and it knocked Kaido on his butt. You know what I mean? Like, it's just seeing these old things back, but utilized to the highest of its potential is just so good, man. So good. I love Gear 5th. I've been saying this ever since the transformation first came out, but I honestly do think this is already up there as among my favorite transformations of all time, just because of what it embodies. It embodies the series. It embodies Luffy as a character, but also it has that mixture of what makes One Piece fight so much fun to explore and to see, which is Oda's creativity to the highest. I mean, yo, going through from page to page, I can't predict what I'm gonna see next. No one can. I mean, none of us were expecting Luffy turning Kaido into rubber, floating as a balloon, and then in that same chapter you have them doing the Fred Flintstone run with flames following him in the air as he turns, right after he turned into a giant. A giant. And then in that very same type of thing, he turns into a Kawamatsu-like state, propels himself forward like a helicopter. It's like, come on, man. The creativity here is endless, and that's what makes Gear 5 so much fun, dude. I love it. I love the way he's been utilizing it so far. And as we get deeper into the climax between Luffy and Kaido, I look forward to seeing what other techniques he uses, what other familiar and or new techniques he uses, because obviously this is the highest potential for all of this stuff, and man, I can't wait to see what other stuff he uses. And in Kaido's way as well, I mean, you obviously see him reverting back to the ones he's been using the entire time, the Blast Breath, the Ragnaraku, the stuff that always works, and it's not working this time. The Mace coming with the strength of the Thunder Bagua. Like, I can't wait, man. I'm excited because we could either A, get the Kaido flashback and then head into the final part of the fight after the Kaido flashback, or we could get the final part of the fight and then as Kaido's being defeated, then we could get his flashback. I don't know how we're gonna get it, but we're heading into the final parts of this fight. It already feels like my favorite fight at this point, but it's been unpredictable. I mean, from the very beginning, Luffy vs. Kaido has been unpredictable. From the initial part 1 back at the beginning of Wano, none of us expected Luffy to actually hit that elephant gun and then get one shot at the following chapter. It's like, yo, that was insane. The fact that all of that took place was extremely unpredictable. Then the red rock coming in, everything followed in roof piece and the Conqueror's coding, unpredictable. Then splitting the skies, them going hammer and legs, or even before that, when 1013 happened, he lost again. Unpredictable, ankle breaker. Then you have the roof piece part 2 where he goes in and he loses again even after all of that, and then you get this on top of it, and now this fruit by itself is the like embodiment of unpredictability, because we have no idea when we turn the page what we're going to see next. You know, we don't know if we're going to see a giant or some sort of old technique once more, and we just don't know. We just don't know, and that's what has made that chapter one of the most fun reading experiences ever. And Oda's in his bag right now, man. We've gotten like 4 straight, like 30 out of 10 chapters, and it's just been so goat, man. I love this chapter a lot, and I look forward to seeing all of your comments in the comments down below. Let me know what y'all think about Gear 5 now that we've gotten to see more of it. Are you enjoying it as much as I am? I know that there's been the thought out there about this fight should be more serious, it's the final battle. No worries on that end, man. We know how Oda does his battles. He always has this level of comedy for these battles, especially with Gear 5. I mean, you gotta let my man have his fun, you know what I'm saying, with stuff like this. But we all know that once we get into the final portions of the battle, just like we saw this week with the Gear 2nd, that by itself should be like an indication that where this battle goes from here in terms of that final section is gonna be like that Gear 2nd, both of them delivering extremely awesome lines and going in. That's them. You know, that is them at their core. And so, inevitably, it is going to have an extremely epic and amazing conclusion. And so for those individuals who've been saying the fight is not serious up until this point, first of all, that's a lie, because the original battles all were extremely serious with a mix of comedy with Luffy and Kaido, but also right here just specifically. Now that he's in this new form and he's playing around and doing all this, when push comes to shove, now in this final section, they're both utilizing everything in their arsenal. It is going to be that mixture of classic One Piece comedy, but it's also going to be super hype in the way that we saw this week. And it's going to be extremely emotional, extremely dramatic, and extremely epic. So expect an amazing conclusion for Luffy vs. Kaido, solidifying its placement as the best fight in this story. I can't wait for it. It's going to be awesome sauce. But until next time, I can't believe there's no break. I love this week's cover page. The color spread was cool too. But the main highlight this week, even above Kaido being a beast, was Luffy's Gear 5th. That amazing line with the Gear 2nd. all of that, just so good, man. The creativity, it was just so much fun to read, and I look forward to seeing even more from Gear 5th, because I can't get enough from this floor, man. I can't. It really do makes me feel like a kid again whenever I was going through and seeing like Gear 2nd even for the first time, or like Bankai or Super Saiyan. I just could not wait to see the next time they would go into that state. I already know after Wano ends, I'm gonna be fiending for the next time that we get Gear 5th in any type of degree. Right, and I need Toei to come back so we can finally get Roof Piece animated with all that goatness, and then we can eventually get to this greatness right here, because I can't wait to see how they handle it. Because I can already tell they're going to have so much fun with it. We need it, but y'all have an awesome one. Take care. Gear 5th goatness, man.